It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. It's the dictionary.
Hello, word nerds, and welcome to a pre-F bonus. I was racking my brain about what to do for this one, and I figured I'll just read the dedication of that old, very large, huge antique dictionary that I told you about recently. I'll put a button somewhere around here. I don't know. I think I know how to do that. I'll put a button here to go watch that video. You can click on it and go watch that video. And so the dedication is pretty short. This will be a short one, but the introduction is longer. And maybe if I don't have any other stuff to record, I'll read you the introduction in another episode. I wanted to say that, let's see, I'm recording this hopefully the day before this airs, August 12th. 2 days ago, on August 10th, we were in a store, and they just happened to have almost the exact same version of this big book, but it was, first of all, it was in much worse shape than this one, and it was 4 years older. So all the edge, the cover, the side thing, it all looked the same, but it was from 1942. This one's from 1946, but yeah, it was in much worse shape. So I think I got a good one, and I got a good deal on it. For those of you who know dictionaries, you probably know dictionaries better than I do. All right, this book is so big, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this. Let's see, I'm going to need to move my mouse out of the way and move this over here. Yeah, this kind of works. This kind of works. Let's see what this video looks like. Can you see it in the thing? And I have lost my mouse altogether. Yeah, you can see the edge there. All right. Oh, what a silly thing to do. Okay, this is the dedication from the publishers. It is on page 2, Roman numeral 2, lowercase I, and it goes like this. I feel like I should say it in an old-timey voice. To all who speak, read, or write the English language, today this book is dedicated. It's a little bit like the Kennedys. I didn't mean for that to happen. To the youth of America, who are now in the process of gaining an education, to those adults whose restless and eager minds recognize that the process of learning is never ended. Ooh, I feel like I'm going to have things to say about this. And it's very prevalent to any time that you read this, probably. Never ended. The process of learning is never ended. To the newcomers to our country who find that their borrowed language can be learned only with the greatest patience and perseverance, to those writers and workers who use words as a tool of their trade, to those who wish a better understanding of the written and spoken word as it comes to them in newspapers, over the radio, and from the public platform, which really encompasses all the new stuff that has come out since then, like internet and social media. The publishers offer this book as a guide and staff to help them on their way in their explorations through the realm of words. It's a very nice way, and yes, it still means something today. We still have people come into this country, we still have young people, we still have old people. Okay, these readers will find that here is no dry-as-dust book of words to discourage them with its forbidden dullness. Although these books are pretty brown, so it's pretty dry. Here is a dictionary that is alive, vital, and modern, almost 80 years ago. It contains much information concerning art, science, and literature, in keeping with the plan of its original editor, John Ogilvy, who wrote in 1850 that, quote, the charge usually preferred against English dictionaries, namely, that they furnish but dry sort of reading, will not apply to this dictionary, end quote. The modern editors have been faithful to the precepts of John Ogilvy and have made their dictionary more than a record of etymologies and definitions. They have compiled a living record of the language as it is written and spoken today, and have included much material contained in no other dictionary published at the present time, like maps and Greek mythology names and lots and lots of stuff. A core of editorial workers is at work at all times, constantly revising, changing, and adding new words and facts to this vocabulary. New and timely information is carefully considered and, if found sufficiently important, is entered in the text. Never before has there been a more rapid acceleration in the addition of new words to our language, and that is more true today in 2024 than when this book was written, because now we have the capability of putting words right onto the internet on, places like dictionary.com and other ones. They just put the words in there before they publish a book. The world is changing at a great rate, and it is the duty of the lexicographer to record its developments. For, as the world changes, the English language changes with it. Oh, yes, it does. Some people today want to keep things this static, but no, it changes, it evolves, it grows. New words come into being, and old words take on new meanings. War, science, and politics each adds its quota to the vocabulary of our language. This constant change in the English language has an ancient and honorable precedent. The English language from the beginning has grown by a series of changes, loans, and acquisitions. Basically, it is a Germanic language brought to the British Isles during the 5th and 6th centuries by the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who at the time invaded and overran Britain. The Angles and Saxons settled the whole country south of the Thames, with the exception of Cornwall, part of Hampshire, and the Isles of Wight and Kent, which were settled by Jutes. And I don't know if I'm saying that word right. That word, Jutes, J-U-T-E-S. During the 6th and 7th centuries, England was converted to Christianity, and through the missionaries, a stream of Latin words, chiefly those referring to sacred objects and duties, were introduced into the language. Popular Latin words had already come into the language from the Romanized town dwellers, left behind by the invasions of the Romans in the early centuries before Christ. The next great invasion to influence the English language was that of the Danes, who conquered and ruled in Britain in the 11th century. So that would have been the 1000s, the 1000s, basically 1,000 years ago. During the 12th and 13th centuries, Norse words appear in large numbers in texts from the North and from the Middle East. From there, they penetrated into the speech of London. Many of these words are still part of Standard English, while others survive in English dialects. The English borrowed from the Danish settlers many words connected with law, and the names of territorial divisions such as town, village, etc. So the words for town and village are from Danish, I think? The Norman conquest in 1066, almost exactly 1,000 years ago, in which the French under William the Conqueror vanquished the English, marks the end of the period known as Old English and the beginning of Middle English, with the introduction of the French influence of the language. The transition from Old to Middle English was not abrupt. It never is. Since the common people of Britain could not and did not at once adopt the language spoken in the castles and courts of their conquerors. It takes time. The Anglo-Saxon language, with various loans from the Norse and Celtic languages, was affected only gradually by the French. In our language today, we still find evidence that the language of the common man remained Anglo-Saxon, for the words that identify prosaic objects like pig, cow, and farm derive from Anglo-Saxon roots, while pork, beef, and castle are from the French. And, we just went through like a whole history of English. Maybe there's more coming. But of course, I'm going to shout out again the History of English podcast with Kevin Stroud, who was on this podcast, and he gives a whole history lesson on the English language. He goes into all of this in so much more detail. The blending of all these influences constitutes what is known as modern English, which dates from about the first third of the 15th century, so that's about 1400 to 1433, for those who need those numbers. It is the language that the first settlers spoke when they came to the New World. So like Columbus was 1492, so yep, that's all in the 15th century. The New World, quote unquote, America, quote unquote, a place where all the immigrants come to. In America, these settlers encountered new experiences, and as their strange lives developed, a new stream of language diverged from the mainstream of English. The frontiers pushed forward, and not only new words, but new dialects and a different style of speech became evident, like the way I talk, although back in the 1500s it was different. Let's see. New dialects evident. It was after the American Revolution, when the Americans declared themselves politically free from England, that they came to realize that they were culturally free as well, and became conscious of the fact that they had developed a language that was truly American and not English. So why don't we call it American? Well, we sometimes do. Noah Webster was one of the first to recognize that there existed an American language separate and distinct from English, and it was on this principle that he wrote his great dictionary. Henry Cabot Lodge says of him, quote, "As for Webster, he went into open rebellion against British tradition. He was snubbed, laughed at, and abused. He was regarded as little better than a madman to dare to set himself up against Johnson and his successors. But the hard-headed New Englander pressed on, and finally brought out his dictionary, a great work, which has fitly preserved his name." End quote. Remarkably enough, his dictionary was not only thoroughly American, but was superior to most of the English dictionaries of the time, a fact which was recognized in England as well as in America. He expresses his principles in The Dictionary of the American Language, in the preface of which he wrote, quote, "To diffuse an uniformity and purity of language in America, to promote the interest of literature and the harmony of the United States, is the most earnest wish of the author, and it is the highest ambition to deserve the approbation and encouragement of his countrymen." End quote. Since Webster's day, the American language has veered even further from English, until today an Englishman may have some difficulty in understanding the colloquial speech of the American man in the street. This modern American speech was borrowed from the Indians, the Spanish, from the French in Louisiana. It has incorporated words from the languages of many waves of immigrants, particularly the Germans, Irish, and the Pennsylvania Dutch, and from the later immigrations of Italians, Russians, Slavs, and Jews. Oh, I am so glad there weren't any real bad words in there. From the 1940s, wouldn't be surprised if they had some old, not great words. To understand the American language today is to understand the history of America, the principles of freedom and equality upon which this country was founded, and the melting pot of races and nationalities that constitute its people. It is the aim of the editors to present this picture of America today to those who use this book, and it is to the people of America that the publishers dedicate this new dictionary. And it is really great to hear that from 1946-ish, the early 40s, because I know that there's a version from 1942 as well. When the world was going through a really weird time back then. World War II was right then. And today we have a lot of people wanting to get rid of immigrants, not let immigrants come in, saying that America isn't great and it was great at a certain time, and they want to get back to that. And it's all just silliness. You can't stop growth and progression and evolution and change, and that is what they said at the end was literally is true. America was literally based on immigrants. We have been saying this till we are blue in the face over and over again, and it's not going to change. There are people who we massacred, who used to live here. They're the only ones who were originally from this land, and English has evolved and changed with all of these interesting cultures and perspectives coming together. So, yeah. Didn't expect it to go in that direction, but it did. So, cool dedication. Maybe I'll read the introduction in a couple of parts at another time. And that's it for this pre-F bonus. The Fs are coming at the end of September. Here we go. Get ready. I'm going to try and post episodes every week, give or take. All right, this has been Spencer, not dispensing information. Goodbye.